In the annals of polar exploration, names like Robert Falcon Scott and Ernest Shackleton are etched in stone. But the true hero of their early exploits was made of oak, green heart, and ironwood. RRS Discovery stands as a unique monument in maritime history. Launched in 1901 in Dundee, Scotland, she was the first ship ever purpose-built for scientific research in the Antarctic. Paradoxically, she was also the last traditional wooden three-masted ship ever constructed in the United Kingdom. At the dawn of the 20th century, steel was already the undisputed king of the oceans. Yet, for the hostile frozen expanses of the far south, British designers purposefully chose to look backward. Steel hulls, they knew, would buckle under the immense crushing pressure of moving pack ice. Worse, a metal hull would hopelessly distort the highly sensitive magnetic instruments required for the expedition's primary scientific mission. Discovery was engineered to be a floating fortress. Her massive hull was built in 3 separate skins: an inner layer of English oak, a middle core of pitch pine, and an outer shield of incredibly dense Honduran greenheart and eucalyptus. At the bow, where the ship would physically ram the pack ice, the wood was reinforced until it reached a staggering thickness of 66 centimeters. Furthermore, her shape featured a pronounced tumble home, an inward slope of the hull sides. This ensured that when the ice closed in, it wouldn't crush the ship. Instead, the physical pressure would squeeze the vessel upward, allowing her to ride safely on top of the ice floes. She was also fitted with an incredibly rare feature. Both her massive bronze propeller and her rudder could be completely lifted out of the water through internal shafts to protect them from being sheared off by drifting ice. Yet, the ship required absolute compromise. To maintain magnetic purity, an exclusion zone was established around the onboard magnetic observatory. No steel or iron was permitted within 30 feet of the main compass. Wardroom cushions with steel-backed buttons were banned, and the officers slept on horsehair mattresses because standard steel bed springs would throw off the scientific instruments. On August 6, 1901, Discovery weighed anchor from Cowes, England, bound for the bottom of the world, under the command of a strict 33-year-old Royal Navy commander named Robert Falcon Scott. The ship carried a crew of 37 men, including a young, charismatic third officer named Ernest Shackleton and a brilliant zoologist named Edward Wilson. The voyage south was an agonizing test of endurance. Discovery had been built for strength, not speed. Her heavy wooden hull, combined with a relatively underpowered 450 horsepower coal engine, meant she rolled violently in heavy seas. She could barely manage 7 knots under steam, and her massive 12,000 square foot sail plan required grueling manual labor to manage in the freezing gales of the Southern Ocean. By January 1902, the crew sighted the Great Icy Barrier of Antarctica. Scott pushed the vessel further into the Ross Sea than any ship had ever gone, ultimately anchoring in McMurdo Sound at a spot they named Winter Quarters Bay. Here, Discovery achieved another historic milestone. She became the first British expedition ship to intentionally overwinter on the Antarctic mainland. As the polar night descended and temperatures plummeted below -40 degrees, the ice closed tightly around the hull. The ship was frozen fast, transformed into a stationary, wood-walled research station for the next 2 years. From this wooden sanctuary, the scientific output was staggering. The expedition mapped the vast transantarctic mountains, discovered the polar plateau, and identified the world's first known emperor penguin breeding colony. On November 2nd, 1902, Scott, Shackleton, and Wilson set off on a southern march, pushing across the ice to achieve a new farthest south record, coming within 480 miles of the South Pole before scurvy and exhaustion forced them back. By early 1904, the expedition faced a terrifying crisis. The summer sun arrived, but the massive sheet of sea ice locking Discovery into McMurdo Sound refused to melt. Nearly 20 miles of solid, thick ice lay between the open ocean and the trapped vessel. Back in Britain, the Admiralty grew desperate. they dispatched 2 relief ships, Morning and Terra Nova, with absolute orders. If Discovery could not be freed immediately, she was to be abandoned, and Scott's crew must return on the relief vessels. Scott refused to lose his ship. For weeks, the crew worked frantically with handsaws, attempting to cut a 20-mile channel through the ice, but the elements froze the track shut faster than they could cut it. Finally, in mid-February, desperation gave way to explosives. Using heavy charges of gunpowder and gun cotton, the crew systematically blasted the ice away, chunk by chunk. On February 16, 1904, a final massive explosion shattered the remaining barrier. The ice cracked open, and Discovery surged into freedom. After 3 years in the wilderness, she returned to Britain a triumph, arriving in September 1904 to roaring crowds. While her men achieved global fame, Discovery's own story was far from over. In fact, her post-expedition life was arguably even more varied. Because she was expensive to maintain and slow for naval warfare, the government sold her in 1905 to the Hudson's Bay Company. Stripped of her scientific laboratories and luxurious officers' quarters, the proud polar vessel was converted into a rugged cargo tramp ship. For 9 years, she braved the treacherous, ice-choked waters of northern Canada, carrying fur, ammunition, and supplies to remote trading posts. When the First World War erupted, her unique ice-strengthened hull was called upon once more. The British Admiralty chartered her to transport vital military supplies to the Russian port of Arkhangelsk. In 1916, she was even tapped to sail south to rescue Ernest Shackleton's crew from Elephant Island after his ship, the Endurance, was crushed by the ice. Ironically, a local tug rescued them before Discovery could arrive. But the moment highlighted a profound truth. While the Endurance, built as a lighter Arctic tourist ship, succumbed to the ice, the heavily over-engineered Discovery would have almost certainly survived the pressure. In 1923, the ship entered her second golden era. Purchased by the British Crown, she underwent a massive refit and was formally designated as the very first Royal Research Ship, RRS. Between 1925 and 1927, she spearheaded the Discovery investigations, conducting pioneering oceanographic research in the South Atlantic. This expedition provided the world's very first scientific data on whale migration patterns and marine biology, which ultimately formed the foundation for the first international regulations governing the whaling industry. Her final deep-sea mission occurred between 1929 and 1931, when she was loaned to the joint British, Australian, and New Zealand Antarctic Research Expedition, BANZAR, under Sir Douglas Mawson. Mawson used her to map vast stretches of the East Antarctic coastline, claiming thousands of miles of territory for the Crown. By the mid-1930s, the aging wooden Titan could no longer compete with modern steel research vessels. She was decommissioned and spent decades moored quietly on the River Thames in London, serving as a stationary training ship for the Sea Scouts and the Royal Naval Reserve. During the Blitz of World War II, her heavy steam engines and boilers were ripped out and melted down for scrap metal to aid the war effort. By the late 1970s, neglected and rotting, Discovery faced the scrapyard. But history intervened. A dedicated maritime heritage trust rescued the ship, executing a multi-million-pound restoration project to return her to her original 1901 configuration. In 1986, a cargo ship carried the legendary vessel back to the city of her birth, Dundee, Scotland. Today, RRS Discovery sits proudly as the centerpiece of Dundee's waterfront museum. She remains one of only 2 surviving expedition ships from the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. She stands as a physical testament to a transitional era in human history, a ship built with the ancient wooden craftsmanship of the past, tasked with forging the scientific future of our world.